Hello, you sentient ball of stardust. My name is Casey Davis. I'm a therapist and I'm an author of the book How to Keep House While Drowning, where I talk about ways to make it a little bit easier to take care of yourself when you're overwhelmed, stressed, have mental health issues, physical health issues, or maybe you're just in a hard season of life. Maybe you're looking for a place that you can come and listen to some practical advice. This is a podcast for all of the self-help rejects. We're going to talk about skills for survival and self-kindness. And I'm going to leave the pop psychology at the door. I promise not to tell you to meditate or to journal. We're just going to give you some really insightful conversations with hopefully some practical advice. So I don't believe you need to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. I don't want you to just try harder, and I don't believe that laziness exists. So join me over on Struggle Care, where we can find compassionate solutions that help us function a little bit better.
New on Curiosity Stream. How do you connect a 16th century potato to limitless energy production? Could Napoleon's toothpick have a direct link to a machine that predicts the future? And how can a 1700s conch shell chart a course to humans connecting their brains to the internet? James Burke's visionary series Connections returns for a new generation. Experience all new Connections. With monthly, annual, and bundled plans, find the one that works for you at curiositystream.com.
Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.
Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Elena Grace and you're listening to I've Been Thinking. So today we're going to do another kind of fun episode. I feel like a lot of the recent ones have been short, and I'm sorry for that. I don't know what's going on with me, but don't worry. We'll have some longer ones coming up soon in case you like that. Today's is going to be a little bit shorter though as well, and it is actually a fun one. We are going to be talking about why are drinks named what they're called, like what they're named, right? So big shout out to my friend Ashley, my sister. She was my sorority sister. We were good friends in college, and she is actually who designed the Winnie logo as well. So big shout out to her for suggesting this topic. And so this episode is dedicated to you, Ashbin. So, first of all, we're just going to jump in. Why are they called cocktails? You know, like, can I go grab a cocktail? It's a weird word. And apparently, the etymological origins of the word are pretty mysterious. It kind of just jumped up from nowhere in the 1800s. But it has been proposed that perhaps the cock part of the word comes from the drinks being popular at the races or making you feel giddy like an energetic horse whose tails were often cropped or cocked. So kind of makes sense in that sense, but really it's very up in the air. We're very unsure about that. But that kind of follows through because the names of individual cocktails are usually pretty up for debate as well, which that shouldn't be too surprising if you think about it, because like drunk people are involved in this. But then at the same time, you'd think that some of them would be like legendary. Like in Lexington, we have the John Wall shot, right? And it's named after John Wall, a legendary UK basketball player. So you would think that that name, or that some of these names would be like memorable to the people who were there when it was created. I don't know. But also, you can't always trust the word of drunk people. So whatever. So I did some research, and I'm going to share with y'all the origins of some of the most popular cocktails And this is what I could find. This is not a very heavily research topic in like more accredited circles. I'm sure I could have found like some Reddit sources and stuff that were like, yeah, here's exactly why they're called this, blah, 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 blah. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to find things that were a little bit more believable than some rando on Reddit. So here we go. I'm just jumping into this too. Bellinis were reportedly called that because the inventor, he was the owner of Harry's Bar in Venice, Italy. His name was Giuseppe Cipriani. It reminded him of the orange colors used by Venetian artist Giovanni Bellini. That one is like really cut and dry and we're like very sure about that one, I guess. And I think it is so cute because I know exactly what color he's talking about. And it reminds me of a lot of one of my friends in Japan. Her name is Akane. And she told me one day we were at Enoshima watching the sunset over Mount Fuji. And she was like, my name means that color that the sky is right now. It's like the color, the peachy orangey color of sunset. And that is, I mean, the color of a Bellini. So I just think that is the cutest story, that he loved those colors because I love those same colors too, you know? And I have an Akane, he had a Bellini. Okay, so next, the mint julep, a Kentucky icon, is made of bourbon sweetened with sugar and mint. The word julep is French and was borrowed into English to refer to a sweet drink, so that's cute. Before that, the origin of the word julep comes from the Arabic word julab. It's especially fitting because apparently, on occasion, versions of the mint julep are made using florals that were soaked in sugar water, such as rose petals, and julab meant rose water. So that's a cute little connection there. The sex on the beach was supposedly invented when a peach schnapps distributor challenged bars to sell the best / most peach schnapps drinks. And the winning bar, I think, got to like, I forget what they got. But the winning bar came up with the sex on the beach that we know today. And supposedly, the owner of the bar said that he named it for two things that Florida is famous for: sex and the beach. Mojitos literally mean little mojo. It is theorized that they take their name from molji, which is a Cuban sauce or a marinade made with citrus fruits. So I guess it's like complimentary drink to the meal. It matches up. That's really all I got on that one. But daiquiris, on the other hand, are basically mojitos, but just a little different. And also from Cuba. They are named after the village of Daiquiri on the Cuban coast. And legend says that they were invented by an American mining engineer, Jennings Cox, when the gin ran out during a party that he was throwing and they had to use rum instead because it was local. So the oldest known recipe for the daiquiri is on a card with his name on it, and he lived and worked in Cuba at the turn of the century in the early 1900s. But even though the oldest recipe has his name on it, we're pretty sure, people are pretty sure that similar versions had been around for like ever. So it wasn't like really his, but it's largely attributed maybe in gaining popularity to him. Hemingway was a huge fan of these, by the way. Now, Manhattans have a very debatable background, but supposedly the Manhattan was invented for a banquet hosted at the Manhattan Club by Lady Jenny Randolph Churchill, aka Winston Churchill's mother. A lot of people say that she was pregnant at the time that this was invented, and thus that specific part of the story is pretty unlikely. But I really like that story. But it's pretty like established that the Manhattan was invented at the Manhattan Club. So there's that at least. Now, a Rob Roy, which is a Manhattan made with scotch instead of whiskey, was invented definitively, like we know this one, faux show, at the Waldorf Astoria in New York in 1894 to celebrate the Broadway premiere of an operetta referencing the life of Rob Roy, a Scottish folk hero. So we know exactly where that one comes from. I always like to throw those in there. Really messes with the mystery of things. Mai Tais were invented at a bar in California in the 1940s, and the word means good or nice in Tahitian, which is super fitting because, first of all, Mai Tais are delicious, and second of all, my favorite Thai restaurant is in northern Kentucky, and it's called Mai Tai, and that place is like gold. It is so good. The screwdriver, my mother's favorite for some strange reason, is reportedly originated in 1940s Turkey when a group of American engineers working in a Turkish oil field would secretly add vodka to their orange juice at work. And then they would mix it up with the help of a screwdriver. They'd stick a screwdriver down in their bottle or their flask or whatever and give it a good mix. Hilarious. Bloody Marys, one of my favorites. I mean, it's a meal in a glass. You just can't get any better than a meal in a glass. Bloody Marys also have competing origin stories. One theory is that an American bartender, just follow me on this one, okay? An American bartender was working at Harry's New York Bar, which is located in Paris, France. And the theory is that he was one of the first to develop this drink in the 20s. And the name began as the Bucket of Blood after a nightclub in Chicago. But this ultimately evolved into Bloody Mary. Another version of the origin cites an early Smirnoff ad campaign, where an American actor says that the drink was named after his friend, Mary. And then, of course, there's the version that attributes the drink's name to Queen Mary Tudor, the famous, quote, Bloody Mary. And the best theory around that is that it was invented by a restaurant owner in the early 20th century as a weird tribute to her brutal reign. But like I said, nobody's really sure about that one. Okay, pina coladas were supposedly invented in 1954 by bartender Ramon Marrero in San Juan, where he developed the recipe. And the name literally means strained pineapple, which hilarious. Many think, though, that other bartenders and even that pirates were drinking this mixture throughout the 1800s, which I think is so cool and funny. Like, pirates were drinking no pina coladas. That's so cute. But, again, Nobody is for sure. But I love that we can trace it back to one specific person in the 50s as being like, he was an OG pina colada dude, you know? And finally, margaritas, an icon of girls' nights at Cinco de Mayo, was supposedly invented in Tijuana around 1938 and supposedly named after aspiring actress Marjorie King. The bartender made her name Spanish and voila, the margarita. But apparently, margarita also means daisy in Spanish, which I did not know. And there's this drink that's really common, that's like called the daisy, and or like was really common at the time. That's called the daisy, and they were trying to make that, and I forget, it's made with gin maybe, and they had run out. So he was like, okay, well, I'll use tequila instead. And people loved it. So he was like, okay, well, it's tequila, so we'll give it a Spanish name. And they called it the margarita. I like both of those stories. I kind of like the daisy one a little bit better, I think. But it doesn't really matter to me because as long as I get a margarita, that's what matters, you know? We went to this, one of our favorite Mexican restaurants. It's called Cinco de Mayo here in Lexington. And on Tuesdays, they have Taco Tuesdays where you get a taco for $1. Like you can get as many tacos, or is it? Anyway, you get as many tacos as you want for $1. And they also have 2-for-1 margaritas. So we went there a few weeks ago, and the 2-for-1 marg of like the day was lemon margaritas. First of all, I've never had a lemon margarita, and that was delicious. That was so good. I liked it so much better than a lime margarita. So I even liked it better, I think, than a strawberry margarita because it wasn't like too sweet. It didn't make my stomach hurt. Second of all, the Cinco de Mayo that we went to, it's the one closer to our house, and it's really close to, it's like really close to a Kroger. And so we finished eating and we were like, we want cookies. It's National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day or something on the same day. And so Allison and I skipped through the parking lot to go to Kroger, and Taylor was our driver, and she met us over there. We put our little masks on, and we had us a tipsy Kroger trip, and that was so fun. I love that. It reminded me of college. Oh, I loved it. Okay, anyway, moving on. There were so many more drinks that I didn't hit on. I mean, I talked a little bit about a John Wall shot, a local favorite. Also, those are really good. Like, if you live anywhere near the state of Kentucky, you might be able to ask a bar if they know what a John Wall shot is. I did in Cincinnati one time, and he was like, yeah, we have enough people from Lexington come up here that we know what it is. No worries. I bet they would in Nashville, too. Anyway, moving on. But there's so many more. Like, why is Frat Cooler Punch called Hooch? Or, like, why the Army has this weird thing that they drink at dining out things, and they call it grog, and it's the most disgusting thing in the world. I've not drank it, but I've seen it being made. Don't ever drink it unless it's a bet. Like, there's a whole thing behind that. There's so many more weird drink names that I didn't even get into. So I really urge you to look into that, And maybe I'll do another episode later on where I get into some of the weirder ones. But I really wanted to make sure that I hit on the main dudes this time around. Anyway, this hasn't been as short as I thought it would be either. I thought I would really blow through those, but I kind of rambled a little bit. So that's good. I really hope you all enjoyed this. Again, I want to dedicate this to my sorority sister, my friend, one of the most fun and spunky artists that I know, Ashley Bennett Riley, Ashbim. She suggested this topic, and it's really been so fun to research this, but also to get on here and talk to you all about it. I really hope that you enjoyed it, Ashbin, and I hope everybody enjoys this. So y'all give us a follow on Instagram at I've Been Thinking Pod and let us know what you thought. Also, I have launched a Patreon, and I keep forgetting to mention it on here. It is linked on the Instagram in my bio, and it is also linked on the Buzzsprout. And if you're listening to this like on Spotify or anything, the link should be in the bottom of the description as well. So definitely go check out the Patreon. There's 3 tiers where you can provide monetary support to the podcast and help me keep doing this and keep doing it well, hopefully, and even better and better over time. But also where you can get either episodes early or extra content. So I'm really excited. I'm working on some cool and some more vulnerable stuff for the Patreon as well. So subscribe to us wherever you listen. Check out that Patreon. Follow us on Instagram. And if you use Apple Podcasts, definitely give us those 5 stars and leave a beaming review, please. All right. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I'll talk at you next week. Bye.
Hello, you sentient ball of stardust. My name is Casey Davis. I'm a therapist, and I'm an author of the book How to Keep House While Drowning, where I talk about ways to make it a little bit easier to take care of yourself when you're overwhelmed, stressed, have mental health issues, physical health issues, or maybe you're just in a hard season of life. Maybe you're looking for a place that you can come and listen to some practical advice. This is a podcast for all of the self-help rejects. We're going to talk about skills for survival and self-kindness. And I'm going to leave the pop psychology at the door. I promise not to tell you to meditate or to journal. We're just going to give you some really insightful conversations with hopefully some practical advice. So I don't believe you need to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. I don't want you to just try harder, and I don't believe that laziness exists. So join me over on Struggle Care, where we can find compassionate solutions that help us function a little bit better.
New on Curiosity Stream.
I'm James Burke. I'm going to take you on a journey through time.
James Burke's visionary series returns, reimagined for our time.
Now, this is all uncharted territory.
The Washington Post hails Burke as one of the most intriguing minds in the Western world. The New York Times raves he careens from one great moment in history to another.
Where do we want to go from here?
Experience all new connections.
So what's the next connection?
With monthly, annual, and bundled plans, find the one that works for you at CuriosityStream.com.